Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us. I just wanted to start by saying that we're not, although we seem like we're experts in our field of property management, we're not experts, financial experts, we're not solicitors, those things that we are not. So we are giving you advice based on what we know at the time. And as you know, things are changing quite quickly. So the last 6 weeks have been a little bit of a whirlwind in real estate, but particularly property management with sorry, I'm just letting a few more people join. Particularly with property management, with all the legislation changes and people with hardship and rents and all of those things. And because we're living in Australia and we have a federal government as well as a state government, there's lots of different legislation going on and lots of different media saying different things. So it's really tricky to find out what relates to us. Sorry, I should have introduced myself. My name's Leanne Rayner. I'm a director here at Rayner First National. I'm really sorry. I'm joined here by a few of our staff, but particularly tonight, I've got Ebony Hanson, who's one of our property managers. Hey, Eb, who's on Chris's iPad. Hers is obviously not working. No? I'll come back to Eb. And I've got Taryn Basilmans as well, who's in our accounts department. So Taryn will be monitoring our chat box, which is down the bottom. If any of you don't know, on the bottom of your screen, if you haven't used Zoom before, there's a chat. You just click on that and you just type any questions that you might have. Eb and I will be taking this session and we won't be watching the chat box, but Taryn will be monitoring it and we can come back or she can jump in if there's any questions that are relating to something particularly that we're talking to today. We're going to start off by, as I said, we're not experts. We're just doing this so that we're keeping in contact with you. We're having lots of messages at the moment from landlords and tenants regarding all the things related to COVID-19 that we're all navigating at the moment. So I just wanted to say that, but I also wanted to say that the Victorian government has passed legislation in the past week regarding rent relief packages and things like that. And I think you should have all received an email earlier in the week regarding those things and where to find information with a few links for landlords and tenants and things like that. So do we all receive that email? Get a thumbs up just in case we all got that. Yeah. So it's up to you guys to do a little bit of research yourself. We're trying hard to get over, and up until an hour ago, we were still reading all that legislation to make sure we're across it and we're learning new things all the time as well. So I'm glad that you got that. We're going to start off by saying a couple of things on rent. There's been lots of, are you right, Eb, to go?
This is not working. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, so Ebony's up there in Karen now. I don't know what happened there. Hi, Eb, how you going? Ebony's one of our property managers here. We have a property management department of about five or six people at the moment, guys. So we will be discussing this. I'm going to throw to Eb for a few things, but we have had a lot of tenants and landlords ask us whether tenants need to keep paying rent. And the simple answer to that is yes, they do. Eb, do you want to elaborate on that one?
Yeah, so just to touch on that, every property landlord and tenant have different circumstances. So there's no blanket ruling in terms of rent or anything like that. So the tenants, and they are aware, we have been sending out correspondence to them to make it very clear that we do need to still receive rent as per legislation. And yeah, every tenant, every landlord circumstance is different. So we're just trying to navigate that, and yeah, it's each property has a different outcome.
So the simple answer is yes, they do need to pay rent. If they are having trouble, we have, you would have heard the word hardship thrown around a fair bit at the moment in property management land. And if tenants are having hardship with income, they need to apply to us and we can take it to you guys. But what we're asking them to do is to fill out a hardship form. Now, the hardship form is quite detailed. I'm going to ask Eb to go through it now. So we've only had about 10 tenants come to us and say that they are in hardship at the moment. And we have asked them to send back a hardship form, of which only one has actually sent it back. So, but Eb's just going to go through that now. So if you're actually wanting to apply for hardship, you'll need to fill out this form. And just so the landlords know that we are, it's quite a detailed form, which Eb will go through now.
Yeah. So I won't go through everything on the form. I'll just go through the key things that we do ask. So before you're filling out the hardship form, I've been letting my tenants know we want to help you best we can, but the only way we can do that is if you come prepared with the hardship form. So we need, prior to sending it in, we need you to have gone to Centrelink and, you know, kind of explored your options and things as in terms of what you're eligible for, because we do need that the statements and things like that from Centrelink if you are eligible. So the hardship form basically just asks how many people in your household are financially affected by COVID-19 or in hardship. It asks for your most 3 recent pay slips. It asks for a bank statement. So we need all your bank statements and a screenshot of all the different accounts that you have so we can kind of navigate what circumstance you're in. We need a certificate of the Centrelink benefits statements that you are receiving, and we also need a letter from your work stating that you have been put off due to COVID-19 or that you've significantly lost hours. And a big point in that is it needs to state that it is due to COVID-19, which all your work and things like that will be happy to provide that to us. So that's basic, and it goes over a few other little things, but they're probably the key points. Now, another thing with the hardship form, your rent needs to exceed 30% of your net income, so to be eligible for the hardship application. Once we have the hardship form and all those documents back, what we then do is we get that information, and we've got a calculator set up that we put all those details in, which is why it's important that we have your bank statements. So we have a criteria, we fill that out, and then we come back with a figure that is reasonable for both the tenant and the landlord, and then we start the negotiation. Once we have all settled on an agreement, that agreement is lodged through Consumer Affairs. So there is a form that we all fill out, we all sign, and then we will lodge that to them. Now,
the important thing is there, Eb, we're just going into the rent relief package that the government set out now, guys. So once you've come to the agreement and we lodge it with Consumer Affairs, that has to be done to be eligible for the rent relief. Is that right, Eb?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it needs to be lodged.
Yeah, it's a rent relief package. So the first criteria for that is that you have to already have an agreement lodged with the Consumer Affairs. So if we've lodged an agreement with Consumer Affairs and you're still with the agreed amount, the reduced amount, if your income is still exceeding 30% of that, you may be eligible for the rent relief package, as well as you need the following criteria. So you need less than $5,000 in savings, and your household must be earning less than $1,903 per week. And then that rent relief package gets sent directly to the landlord.
So the $2,000, which is the rent relief grant, does not get sent to the tenant, even though the tenant has to apply for it. That's really important to know. So at the moment, we're not quite sure whether that $2,000 will come to us as the agent or whether it will go directly to the landlord. But the $2,000, it's important to note for tenants that although you have to apply after your agreement has been lodged, you have to apply for the $2,000 rent relief, but that doesn't get paid to you. It gets paid to the landlord or the agent. We're just still negotiating with that. We're not quite sure how that's going to be processed. But
but we'll come back to you guys once we do have an answer on that. We'll send out, we have been, we'll send out the correspondence when they've clarified it. So, but yeah, that's what's been put in so far.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's from the tenant's point of view, that's what needs to be done. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of proof, and so I think landlords should feel a little bit a bit of comfort with that. It's important to note that we all have to work together, and it's important to note, I think Ed, we were talking about this before, that not all agreements will be the same. Just because one landlord can offer a $50 a week reduction in rent doesn't mean that the next one can. They may only be able to, offer a $20 reduction. So it's not, yeah, it just depends. We're just going to have to negotiate on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
But I think it's important to note that just because your next door neighbour negotiated a big chunk of their rent off doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do that as well. It's a really individual basis, and that's what we're here to do. We put all the figures into the calculator, as Ed said, which First National have provided for us to get a base point, and then we do the negotiations from there, depending on circumstances between the tenant and the landlord. So that's really good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, so there's also, I just wanted to talk about a little bit for the landlords as well. That some of the things that are available to you. I'll just let this person in, sorry. Yeah, so some of the things, obviously we have to have an agreement in writing, but there are things available to the landlords in regards to land tax reduction on those investment properties. So a landlord may be eligible for a 25% land tax reduction for 2020 and a deferral till March 2021. However, to be able to do that, we need to have an agreement lodged with Consumer Affairs. So the only way you're entitled to that land tax reduction is if you've got an agreement with your tenant lodged with Consumer Affairs, and then you can apply for that. It won't be an automatic land tax reduction. It'll be, yeah, you'll have to still apply after your agreement has been lodged. So this all sounds wonderful, doesn't it? All these financial benefits the government's putting out there, but there's quite a bit of hoops to jump through before we can get all that relief, either as a tenant or as a landlord. So just as landlords that are in with us today too, just determine whether other supports are available to you, such as your mortgage broker or lender, if they can suspend some payments or reduce payments for this time if you're not getting full rent. Look into the land tax rebate if you're eligible for that, and just check your landlord's insurance. There's been a lot in the media also talking about landlord's insurance not covering you for this time. So just check your policies and make sure, see what it is, because not all insurers are actually paying out for loss of rent due to COVID-19 at the moment either. So that's an interesting point. Yeah, so that's it. Chaz, have we got any questions? Is Taryn? Yeah, hang on.
We just need it unmuted.
Sorry, Chaz, go on. I can't hear her.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. There was just a couple, and I've answered them, but
Okay.
Are landlords notified if tenants are applying for rent relief or reduction? And if so, at what point will be they informed? And I just wrote, when a tenant notifies us formally in writing, we will notify the landlords immediately.
Correct. We'll look at their hardship form first and see if we think that they qualify. And we will tell you that they've applied for hardship and that we're looking into it.
That's right.
And then once, yeah, go on. Sorry, Chaz, did you say that?
That's right. So yeah, we'll let you know if they've applied, but then we'll look into it and let you know whether they actually qualify.
Just touching on that as well, that's what I was speaking about just before. We will notify our landlords straight away, but when you're filling out that hardship form, that's why it's really important to make sure that you've looked into everything as a tenant that you're eligible for and that you've applied for, because they're the things that we're going to keep going back and forth from. So we want it, when we have the hardship form, we want to have all your bank statements, we want the letter from your work, we need everything to go to your landlord and start the negotiation. It's going to drag out further if we don't have, we're going to keep going back and forth until we have all that information. And until we have it, that negotiation cannot start with your landlord.
Correct. Correct.
The
and then the other one, that relates to this, yeah. Yeah.
Anyone else got any questions? We've probably got a bit of time. I just didn't want to take up too much of your time, guys. We're trying to keep these short. We are looking to do these every couple of weeks when things come on new. So please don't hesitate to throw us an email, just to give us some feedback on things. And if you've got any questions that you don't want to put in here, just email us and we will endeavour to get to them at our next meeting. Thanks for joining us, and yeah,
Thanks everybody.
thanks guys.
Thank you.